The president is open to hearing about additional exemptions.
He wants the tariffs to apply broadly.
Mixed messages coming from U.S. officials today about exemptions to Trump's tariffs. Today, automakers got a 1-month reprieve from the crippling 25% tariffs. Here in the West, the premiers of BC, Saskatchewan, and Alberta are laying the groundwork for their response. And while they sometimes disagree on issues like pipelines, the trade war is, for now, putting them on common ground.
Working with other premiers and with the federal government on how we can support the Team Canada approach with non-tariff responses. Non-tariff responses are things that are in the provincial government's authority for us to be able to do to support this effort to retaliate against the American tariffs. We're absolutely going to support other premiers. There is no monopoly on good ideas and how we can do that, but we're going to do it in a coordinated way with other premiers and with the federal government.
Effective immediately, what we are here to announce today is the Saskatchewan Liquor and Gaming Authority will stop purchasing U.S. produced alcohol, and we'll stop selling any U.S. alcohol that we currently have in stock to any of the private retailers that are in the province. We'd also announced that the goods and services that are procured by the government of Saskatchewan ministries as well as the Crown corporations are going to make every effort to prioritize Canadian suppliers. We're going to put our capital projects that are not yet in motion. We're going to put a very temporary pause on those projects.
This economic attack on our country, combined with Mr. Trump's continued talk of using economic force to facilitate the annexation of our country, has broken trust between our two nations in a profound way. Thousands of Albertans have lost their lives fighting alongside our fellow Canadians to secure and protect our freedoms and our country. And we will not cast those freedoms and loyalties aside in response to the threat of economic pressure from a foreign government, even an historically friendly one.
And that was the first time Alberta Premier Danielle Smith spoke publicly in Canada since the tariffs were imposed yesterday. CBC's Julia Wong is in Edmonton, and she's been following this story. And Julia, what's Alberta's tariff strategy?
Well, Ian, the Premier laid out a few different things that this province is going to be doing, many of them similar to what we've seen in other provinces. The first is a change in procurement practices. We just heard Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe talk about that. Here in Alberta, Smith says that she will be asking provincial entities to essentially not buy American anymore. She wants to see goods and services bought from Albertan or Canadian companies, or as she put it, countries with a free trade agreement that is being honored. Obviously, those last few words being emphasized by her. She's also saying that there will be no more purchases of American alcohol or VLT. We've seen U.S. booze taken off the shelves in other provinces. It doesn't quite sound like that's going to be happening in Alberta. It'll be no more new purchases. She's also directing grocers to label Canadian products. We know that there's been this surge in patriotism ever since the threat of tariffs. And now she's saying that she wants it to be more visible in grocery stores, what products are Canadian and what aren't. And when it comes to Alberta energy, which is obviously very crucial in this province, she says that she wants to focus on other markets, getting oil to the coast. She wants to find new markets, new customers, and she also wants to see new pipelines built. She was also asked about whether there could be any curtailment plans. She says, well, Canada and Alberta in particular can always sell to other customers if the U.S. doesn't want to buy what we have.
If they don't want that, then I guess we could also, as I say, redirect that to other jurisdictions who do want it. If that's the conversation they want to have, then we can have that conversation. But I don't see any reason why our producers and our Alberta ratepayers should be penalized. I think if we've got a valuable product, then let's sell it to those who want it. And let's try to find a way to get those to new markets.
So that was the Premier's response to questions about curtailment. When it comes to cutting off crude exports, when it comes to taxing crude exports, well, the Premier says that that is something that she would not get behind. She says that this will hurt Canada if the U.S. retaliates in kind, and she does expect that that is what would happen in this case. She also says that polls show that tariffs are unpopular in the United States. She thinks that sentiment is going to grow, and she doesn't want Canada to be perceived or cast as the bad guy in this whole situation. She wants to make sure that anger is directed towards the tariffs presented by U.S. President Donald Trump.
When the threat of tariffs were first out there, Danielle Smith went down to the United States. She met with Donald Trump. Some people in Canada were critical of that. Do you see a change in tone or approach from her now?
Yeah, there definitely has been a bit of a pivot. You know, the Premier has touted diplomacy over the last few months, but what we heard today was sharper words from her about how there's broken trust, a betrayal of friendship, and in particular, something that did jump out. She said that as independent as we are, Albertans are strong and loyal Canadians. So as you mentioned, there has been some criticism that at some points she may have gone this alone without the backing of other premiers, that she was more in it for Alberta's interests as opposed to the interests of all Canadians. Well, with comments like what she just said, she's saying that, hey, the rest of the country, Alberta is with you.
All right, Julia Wong, live in Edmonton. Thank you. All right, let's get some insight into how the energy sector is dealing with this turmoil. We're joined by Mark Scholz, President and CEO of the Canadian Association of Energy Contractors, and he is in Calgary. What is the mood, Mark, in the oil patch?
Well, I mean, it's a scary time for our country. It's an unfortunate time for our industry. We're very much worried about the areas that we operate in. Let's keep in mind that my membership, we're on the front lines of Canadian oil and gas development, operating in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities across the country. And they're going to be the first to feel the impact on any sort of trade dispute or tariff issue related to our access to the U.S. market. So we're carefully monitoring the situation, very carefully, but certainly, we're hoping that we're going to see a positive outcome through this.
I don't have to tell you, a lot of us across the country don't have a full appreciation of the energy sector in Alberta and how complex it is. I wonder at this point, with the uncertainty over tariffs, with the 10% tariffs on energy imports into the United States, are you seeing an impact already on the oil and gas industry, maybe on decisions about where to explore? Or, you tell me, is there an impact already?
Well, in Q1, we're just finishing up Q1 and what we would call our winter drilling season. It's usually our busiest time of the year where we're busy creating some of the most ethically and sustainably produced energy anywhere in the world. And so what we found is that the uncertainty, the build-up to these tariff announcements had modest impacts on activity. It wasn't huge. It wasn't, I would say, material. But certainly the uncertainty and the environment that we were in was not constructive and positive. But what we're really worried about is what spring is going to look like. So after Q1 and breakup, what we would call it here in Western Canada, once spring hits, we're very concerned about what the activity of our sector is going to be. Now, keep in mind, back in November of last year, we had projected that this year would have some of the highest employment opportunities for good middle-class jobs in our sector in over a decade. And again, many of those are located in rural, remote, Indigenous communities. A good news story that we wanted to share with Canada. However, those 41,000 direct and indirect jobs that we were projecting are now certainly going to be a lot fewer than what we had originally projected. How much more? We're still trying to really gauge how the capital markets and our customers, which are the producers, how they're going to respond. But certainly, this is not an ideal situation to be in.
We have just over a minute left for the answer to this question. The U.S., a primary market for Alberta's oil. Is it practical for the province to be trying to get its oil to other markets in the future?
Well, first of all, I would say this is a wake-up call for the country. I think at the end of the day, what we realized is that our largest trading partner, the United States, has essentially created obstacles with access into their market. So we have to look at this very strategically. We have to be smart about these decisions. This is an opportunity to build. This is an opportunity to build infrastructure, what I would call retaliatory pipelines. Let's start getting our products off the continent to other countries that are desperately looking for Canadian resources. We have an opportunity right now to work together as a country to look at building new LNG terminals, pipelines, and various other infrastructure projects that would allow Canada to diversify its market. Now, the United States will always be a major trading partner of ours. Geography dictates that, but we can do a lot better job positioning ourselves for the future so that we can ensure that we have other trading options and optionality. And currently, right now, Canada, unfortunately, just does not have a lot of leverage in this situation because of the lack of market access.
Interesting to hear your perspective, Mark. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.